Hello everyone. This is day three of my Facebook Live. I'm in the class with Forbes Riley, and I promised her that I'll be going live for the next 6 days. It's already day number three, at least for the next 3 days. So today's topic is what I call as how to craft a conversation that moves the needle. That means it's a meaningful conversation. You contribute something meaningfully to the other person with whom you are having the conversation. So, uh, just before everything, I remembered the one of my favorite verses in the Gita or Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, is in chapter 2, verse 47. It goes something like this: Karmanyevadikaraste ma paleshu kadachana ma karma palahiturva Matitangostava karmani. This means, very simply, that you get attached to your efforts and then you are completely detached from the outcomes. It look odd for some people who are not experienced what the deeper meaning of this is. It really means that you have only right to your efforts and you don't have to worry about the outcomes. To make it even more simpler, I always say people that I am a work in progress. That means I guarantee my work and I leave the progress to God. And that is the exact feeling that I'm coming with, the posture I'm coming with for all these Facebook Live sessions, that I have prepared and I know I will go for something or the other, but I'll just do my best effort. And whether people will like this or not, I don't know. I leave it to God. So, again, let's go to the topic: how to craft a conversation that moves the needle. Who does not want to have a conversation that moves the needle? And everybody wants to make some meaningful thing happen in a conversation. Otherwise, why have a conversation and be an opportunity cost for the other person? You don't want to do that. They don't want you to do it. But there's a method to it. It's a 7-step process. I've tried this many, many, many times and it works like magic. Only thing you have to stick to the format. And I devised this after a long time of sputtering and trial and error and everything. So let's go through the 7 steps. The first step is to remember that you have to focus on the ROII. I think all of us know what is ROI, which is return on investment. What is this ROII? The second I starts for interaction. So if you can focus on the return on investment for the interaction, the time that it took for the other person to interact with you, then you already won half the game. Why? Because think about it. Everybody says time is money. In fact, we know that time is more than money. So it's because money you can earn back, but the time will never come back, right? So time is more than money. That means when somebody spends time with you, they are investing more than money. It's their right to expect a good return for that investment. And if you don't do it, very soon, unless they are related to you by blood or they don't have a choice, but let's say you are their roommate in hostel, you don't give them a choice, but you have to live with it unless you can go and change them or you change the room. But sometimes you don't have a choice. But in most other cases, people have an option. They can just run away from the conversation. But they won't do that if they are getting an amazing return for their interaction. The time that they interact with you is very good. That's the first step. Is you should focus on providing a great ROII. Right? That's the first step. Second, you have to care as if it's your own. So long ago, when I was running my first company, it was in 2001. We started the company in 2000, but in 2001 we started looking for a place. Like until that time, we were just managing by sort of subleasing some other office. But we had some money, and now this was the first time we were looking for a space. So we hired a real estate agent, commercial real estate agent, and the person was so good. he said he asked me a bunch of questions, and then Raj, what are you looking for in this office space? And I gave him. It was a long discussion. I said, "Oh my God, so we just know what square footage we need and how much can we pay." But he went on and on and on and on. So I was had a lot of patience, and then after 1 hour, he said, "Let me come back to you." And 1 week later, he came back, and I said, "Let's go for just a walk through for this. I'll show some spaces." He showed only 3 spaces. All our team members were blown away because every single space that he showed would fit our needs. And we had a different problem. Everything was good, so we don't know which one to take. So that is an example of how somebody cares as if it's their own project. A conversation is just like that. You just care as if their need is your need. So that's the second part. So the first part is to focus on the ROI, which is return on investment for an interaction. Second part is to care as if it's your own, that whatever they are dealing with or their concern, challenge, hope, dream, fear, everything as if it's your own. So then you are putting yourself in their shoes, right? Third one is you have to drop your agenda. A, a good conversation is one where you don't worry about what you are going to get, but you're only worried about what they are going to get from whatever you can contribute. Now you can say, what happens, Raj, if we do it every single time? Then when will we take care of ourselves? That's where the magic is. You take care of every single time you care to take care of what they need. You are activating what I call the greatest force on earth, which is the power of reciprocation, right? There is nothing more powerful than reciprocation. And you care enough for enough number of people, and you are just building a reservoir of reciprocation. And very soon you will have an oversupply of good help. That means you will have more capacity to make things happen than anybody you can imagine, right? That's the thing. You drop your agenda, and your agenda is automatically taken care of. You go with only your agenda, and people will think this guy is a taker. He's having a conversation with me, but all he's thinking about is what does he want, what can he get, and everything. I don't think I want to have conversations with those kinds of people, or you want to have conversations with those kinds of people. Nobody likes that, right? So again, we'll go through the 3 steps that we discussed so far. One is you have to focus on the ROI, return on investment for an interaction. Second, you have to care as if it's your own. Third, you have to drop your agenda. Let's go to the fourth one. Fourth one is to understand their strengths. What are they good at? What are their superpowers? It's in fact only somebody else can find out somebody what their superpower is. They can never find out themselves, because if they're operating in their superpowers, they just think it's just common sense. Their superpowers is usually invisible to them, but you, if you are thoughtful, you will know it. Because how do you know it? You can't ask them because they don't know it, but you can keenly listen to what they are saying. And whenever they have used their superpower, they will act as if it was nothing. So let's say they were a good negotiator. They will talk about how they got the best deal for their car, and then you'll be amazed they got it for less, let's say 6,000 less than MSRP. And then how could they do that? You are thinking, but when they explain it, they'll talk as if they just went there, they had coffee and had a quick conversation, and the guy dropped the price by $6,000, $7,000. If you observe keenly, then you will say, oh, this guy's superpower is negotiation, right? So like that, you can expand and see what are their true strengths, right? So that's the fourth one. I'll come to why you require it in the next few minutes. Let's go to the fifth item. Fifth item is about understanding their perceived weaknesses and constraints. Unless somebody is God, I don't think they can escape from having some weaknesses. Most of them are perceived, and some constraints. Like there may be somebody who is not feeling well, so their constraints may be that they have to take care of them. So the amount of time they can, discretionary time they have is limited. Now you can say that, well, it's not a constraint and you can make up anything, but it is a constraint. Now coming to the weaknesses, most of them are perceived. They sometimes people think they're introverts. That's a weakness. And the fact may be that they're introverts, but it is a weakness is wrong. That's usually perceived. It's not a weakness. There are so many introverts who are super, super successful. So you can't let them use that as an excuse to not make something magical happen, right? So that's something to remember. So that's the fifth one. And you can get to the bottom of this again by carefully listening to what they are saying. And when they say, yeah, I get bored with in conferences or something. Well, I don't know who to talk to, right? Because how will I go and disturb someone? I don't want to intrude. I don't want to interrupt someone. So now is not only they're an introvert, they also think that's a problem. And if they are just having a disadvantage against those people who are extroverts, that's something to remember. So let's just quickly run by the five things that we talked about. First is to focus on the ROI, that is to provide a great return on investment for their interaction with you. Second is to care as if it's your own. That means put yourself in their shoes so that you can see the world from their vantage point. So you know how they look at the world, how they see the world. Third one is to drop your agenda. Their agenda is more important than your agenda. When you drop your agenda, you may be worried that then who will take care of me? Don't worry. You have activated the power of reciprocation, which is the greatest force on earth. The fourth is to understand their strengths. How do you do that? You just listen carefully. And the fifth is to know their perceived weaknesses and constraints. Everybody has constraints, but most of the weaknesses are perceived. Again, how do you know that? You just listen extremely intently, thoughtfully, carefully, right? And next is to create the magic. So now you have all the ingredients to make magic happen. So what is magic? Magic, what I say is to come up with a collection of possibilities to be capitalized with their strengths within the set of their weaknesses and constraints, all within their set of weaknesses and constraints. So what does that mean? That if you know of enough patterns that you have recognized that what they bring to the table is a set of strengths, and they come with a collection of perceived weaknesses and constraints. Now you can put yourself in their shoes and come up with a collection of possibilities that will capitalize on their strengths and operate and still work within their perceived weaknesses and constraints. And by the end of the conversation, if you can show them that you can help them see more possibilities than they see on their own, then you are an opportunity for them. Otherwise, you are either a opportunity cost, or it's just like there's no meaning for it other than they just spend some time, you just spend some time, and that conversation did not move the needle. With practice, you can always bring new possibilities that they didn't know existed, which means you become a merchant of possibilities. And that's the sixth item, which is if you choose and go with an intent to become a merchant of possibilities for people, then they'll always have a red carpet welcome for you in their life. Otherwise, you have to knock on the door again and again and again, and you have to earn your keep. But if you are a merchant of possibilities, you're always welcome. But there is a seventh item that you should not forget, because it's in theory everything is good. We had a conversation with them and they say, wow, this is so many possibilities that I didn't see before. And they go back and then they will start watching Jet Judy on TV. Nothing happens. It was like an intellectual entertainment. The only way the needle will move is that you have to get their buy-in, at least for the first step. I call it a feast. That means you bring them to the feast. So, what is feast? It's sort of an acronym. It's F stands for first, FIRST, first. E stands for effectual, and I'll come to what that means. A stands for action. ST stands for step. That means that invite them to a feast. That means all these things that are happening. Uh, how can we enter a feast? That means take the first effectual action step. So the key word here is effectual. And I learned about effectuation from a professor called Professor Saras Saraswati. And when somebody sent me a paper called "What is How Does Entrepreneurs Think?" So Professor Saraswati did an exercise with about 2,000 serial entrepreneurs. The way she defined serial entrepreneurs is that somebody, he or she, who has been involved in at least 3 to 5 companies, and they would have succeeded in at least two of them. So that means they are not serial experimenters who failed in all their experiments and call themselves serial entrepreneurs. They should have some reasonable success in at least two of their companies. And she asked them a bunch of questions to know how they think differently from others. And I won't go into all the details of her research, but it's fascinating. And she found that there is a stark difference between how these people think, and she calls it effectual thinking, and then rest of the crowd. What is the difference? Let me say what Professor Saraswati said. In general, everybody thinks in terms of goals and how to reach there. This is a plan for the other people, not the serial entrepreneurs, but the rest of the crowd. They will say, "Oh, this is my goal," and they start looking for what all do they need to achieve that goal, their skills, network, money, everything. And then they look at what they don't have, just in the laundry list of things, and then they start collecting those skills. Let's say their goal was to start a company. They will say, okay, I need some money, I need some skills, I need to learn sales, I need to learn fundraising. And then they will say, okay, what should I do? I can borrow the money. What about skills? I think I'll just take a course in Coursera, and I'll get a coach. They'll help me with selling. And they start collecting everything because they want to check off things that they don't have, and when they acquire it, so that they can be ready to make a move. That's the general thinking. What does effectual thinking? How is it different? This is how it works. The same person, if he or she is an effectual thinker, they will know the goal, and then they will start thinking. Uh, they know the goal, so the goal is in the back of their mind, but they start thinking, what all do they have? They will make an inventory of things that they already have, not what they don't have, but everything that they already have. What is their network? What is their net worth? What are they good at? And they'll make a laundry list of things. This is all I have. And then in the direction of their goal, what can they do with what they already have? So there is no excuse for not taking action. That is called effectual thinking. So that's the thing you have to always remember, that you can take action with what you have and not wait for things that you don't have. Now what happens? The normal people or general people, not serial entrepreneurs, they say, okay, I don't have something, so I will not take action until I have all those things. But effectual thinkers, they'll say, I know I don't have everything, but what can I do with what I already have? What is the first step I can take? So then they make progress, and when they made some progress and they're in the next milestone, and again they do the same exercise. What all do I have now? And then in the direction of my goal, what can I take as an action? So things start moving, and the rest of the crowd, they're just there thinking, I don't have this, I don't have this, I'm just collecting. So somebody who is on the other side, let's say an investor or a partner or somebody, they see the two people. One person is continuously preparing, the other person is making moves. who will he or she support? The person who is making moves. And all of a sudden, effectual thinkers get an army of people who are supporting them. And that's where the magic happens. They make progress and they get more support, and they make more progress and they get more support. It's like a chain reaction in a good way. So they keep going places, right? So here is the 7 steps. And if we can get the buy-in for them to get into a feast, that means first effectual action step, you move the needle in a big way, because you know what are their strengths, what are their perceived weaknesses and uh, constraints, and you came up with a set of possibilities that they had but they didn't know they had. So and you became a merchant of possibilities. Not only that, before they get lulled into just a trance and no action, you made them sign up for the first effectual action step. That means they make progress, and that moves the needle. Again, let's go through all the 7 steps very quickly. You have to focus on the ROII, which is return on investment for an interaction. Second, you have to care as if it's your own. You have to look at their hopes, dreams, fears, wherever they want to go, the impact they want to create, and you almost put yourself in their shoes and say, how does it look like? How does the world look like for them? But you are looking at from their vantage point. Third is to drop your agenda and focus on their agenda. And if you are ever worried that how will you take care of yourself, don't worry. You activated the greatest force on earth, which is the power of reciprocation, and you will have more power than what you need, right? And then the fourth one is understand their constraints, right? So, sorry, understand their strengths, because they can't see their superpowers, so you can. And fifth one is to understand their perceived weaknesses and constraints. Everybody has constraints. Most of the time, the weaknesses are perceived, so we can just let them know in a nice way once you get their trust, right? And then you create magic. So magic is come up with a set of possibilities that they have, but they don't know they have it. So you almost let them outsee, and you become a merchant of possibilities. And before they walk away and make this an exercise in intellectual entertainment, you get them to buy in for their first effectual action step or invite them to a feast. And there you are. You got everything to create an experience of moving the needle in one conversation. Hope this was useful. And Kat, thank you so much for the support. So Kat and I are in the same course, so we are enjoying Forbes Riley's amazing, masterful teaching of how to do a pitch. And thank you, Forbes, and thank you all of you. Have a great evening. Bye.